Start the recording again. This will start our second session. So I am going to share, are there any questions before we get started first? Otherwise, I'm going to share my application. And people can hear me, right? I'm not just talking to the ether. Somebody
Yeah, I can hear
acknowledge.
you.
Thank
We're
you.
here.
I'm here.
All right. Awesome. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to head over to my test course. So we spent the better part of the morning talking about the ins and outs, the course menu. So now we're going to start getting into some of the breadth of content in Blackboard. So we're going to learn how to create content in Blackboard. So luckily, we did create, if I can get everybody to mute again, please. We did create a content area, right? Plus button, content area. That's our syllabus area. So let me show the link so it's available. But we still have the box with nothing in it, which means it is empty. So one of the basic, very basic things that we have to do to our course is data course syllabus. To do that, we have to be cognizant of both these two areas here. We have the build content area and the assessments area, and we have a couple more things here. So before we talk about content, show content, we have to understand the two basic types of content in Blackboard. Those are both static and dynamic. So anybody in here want to take a stab at what the difference between static and dynamic content is?
Sure, this is Lisa.
Go ahead.
Static content would be something that is fixed, that no one is going to change or interact with. So it's something you're going to like post, they're going to read, and that's it. Whereas dynamic things that people are either commenting on or linking to or interacting with in some type of way.
Absolutely, absolutely awesome. And please excuse my 13-year-old daughter. Sounds like she's rearranging furniture above my head. Joys of teaching from home. So absolutely, static content are things that our students are just going to look at. So if I post a syllabus, for example, that is static content. Even though you told them to go look at it, you don't know if they really did, other than looking at some of the analytics that are behind the scenes that you can understand in further courses such as Advanced Blackboard. You don't know whether or not they did it. The moment that you change it and require a test, like a syllabus receipt test that goes along with it, that becomes dynamic, but just the test is dynamic. Now, another key difference between static and dynamic content. Static content is not going to automatically create a column in your grade center for you. Dynamic content will. So if I create a test or a dynamic assignment where they submit a paper or something along that lines to you as the instructor, it automatically creates a column in the grade center for you. Now, there's something that blurs the line a little bit, but an example of static content would be in our own class. I asked you to go put your introduction slide in that Google slide deck. So I had to actually go into the grade center in our live course and create a manual column for it. So it's an example of static content where I told you to go do it, but it blurs the lines a little bit because you actually did go do something and I am grading it, but it's external Blackboard. Now, what about a video? What if I ask you, what if I put a video in one of my assignments? Is that static or dynamic?
That'd be static, correct?
I'm asking you. Would it be static or dynamic?
I'm going with static.
I would agree with static.
Or is it both? It could actually be both. In its simple form, just putting a video out there, 100% you're correct. It's static. But the moment that I ask you to do a reflection or answer some questions about it, because this all could be combined in the same thing, it could become dynamic. So there are things that we're going to look at in dynamic assignments that I can put videos, I can put documents, I can put web links, I can do all kinds of different things to where I can make something that would have been static into dynamic. However, looking at these two buttons here, build content and then assessments, everything over here in build content is static. Everything over here in assessments, and then there's a bunch that you don't see, are dynamic. So, but we're going to look at just static for the first part of it. But before we even talk about that, there's two things that you have to be cognizant about before you just arbitrarily start dumping content in particular areas. You have to be very aware of your organization, putting things into folders. There's two basic ways to start organizing content areas, whether it be full-blown lesson plan areas or whatever it is, help and support area, is whether or not you're going to simply put the content in there if it's a small enough area, or if you're going to need to start organizing it by folders. There's something called weekly folders or learning modules. Now, learning modules are not going to be covered in this course, but realize learning modules, you're actually, the recording is ready. So I'm going to show you the live link using this, but I'll come back to that. I was waiting on that to finish. Want to quickly show what learning modules are. This particular course, our live course, uses learning modules. Every type of content that you're going to see in Blackboard has a unique symbol that goes along with it. I can tell from this symbol that this is a test. I can tell from this symbol a folder with tabs. This is a learning module. The learning module simply has a table of contents that goes along with all the content that's in there. That's the only difference between it and a weekly folder. A weekly folder is just simply that. Just think about it from the standpoint of a simple manila folder. You're going to have that area and you're going to stick stuff in that folder. So let's build a folder. So I'm going to come over here to build content, content folder. We will call it week 1. Make it simple. When you're organizing out your information, your default course comes with weeks 1 through 16 kind of framed out and ready for you. That does not necessarily mean that weekly folders have to work for you or work for you in that particular standpoint. I'll give you an example of that. Let me get one more Blackboard tab open so I'm not closing stuff. You can have as many Blackboard tabs open as you want. So understand that you can have a course where I've kind of blurred the lines a little bit, and I'm not calling them weeks, but these are weekly folders. This is the content folder, but because I have certain weeks like this one, the heating control devices, it went for 2 weeks, so I simply called it a module. So if that topic went for 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever it is, I'm not confusing my students with week 1, week 2, week 3. I kind of simplified it that way, and I only went up to module 11 because it still covered all the weeks of the semester. So you can still use a weekly folder or a content folder, and you don't have to call it week 1, week 2. If it's just a name at the end of the day. Thinking about communication courses, freshman English, Having sections where it's the descriptive unit or whatever type of unit, it's likely might span more than 1 week, just a different way to organize things. Otherwise, you can use the learning modules. They're pretty self-explanatory, but they are covered in Intermediate Blackboard, which is the course that follows this one. But let's go back to the weekly folder, name it. And this is where I've got to get better myself in designing my courses. It's just been a hectic past 2 years, but eventually I'm going to set my courses up to where I have better descriptive information on the outside of here. And then on the inside, I'm going to set it up to where you have explanations of basically mirroring your COS, learning objectives, assessments, making sure your students understand exactly what's coming in that particular lesson, that week, that module, whatever it is, really laying it out clear of the expectations, the timelines, and everything that's going to happen for that particular section in your class. But we'll just call this motors, whatever. And then I've referenced my memory earlier. If I'm going to hide and open things at certain points, I will do so with the entire folder. Because if you open and close a folder at certain points, then you're less likely to forget about a handful of folders versus all the stuff that's in it. Because if you close the folder, everything inside of it is unviewable. So it's a little easier way to keep track of the different things that are going on in the course. So I'm just going to submit it. Otherwise, you would have put some date restrictions on there if you really wanted to. But realize what this is just another content area. Okay, it is literally a mirror of our content area because a folder is just a giant playground of anything that we want to do. So realistically, if I would have built this out, I would have done a plus button, content area, um, weekly lessons or something along that lines, add it as a button, thrown it up in a particular area, and then built out my content areas. So you would have all your content folders. The students would come in, okay, I'm in week 1, I got to do something. So in the syllabus, it doesn't really make sense to have a weekly folder, so we're going to get rid of that. Now, what did you just see me do? Let's go to the weekly lessons. I don't want week 2 folder. What should I do?
Hit the drop down arrow and delete it.
Okay, let me do something else to you. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Okay, who was just talking again, please?
That was me, Jennifer.
Jennifer. I obviously made a spelling mistake here. Should I get rid of it and redo the whole thing, or is there something else I could do?
I think you can click on the drop down arrow and just edit, maybe.
So this is what I was saying, the golden rule. It's either immediate reward. Sometimes you can rename, like in these buttons. I can rename it. But when we're deeper, sometimes we got to go to edit. Awesome. And then I can change it. And as you mentioned earlier, if I want to simply delete it, I would go to delete it. So there's a bunch of other choices here. You'll learned, some of them in this class, others in other classes, and others just from trial and error. Unique copy and move feature is kind of nice as well if you're trying to move some things around. So, all right, so let's go back to the syllabus because I'd like to build a fake syllabus. How can I do that? Well, under build, we have a ton of choices. So I'm going to go through each one as we come to it. And the first conversation is item versus file. Yes.
Is everybody seeing his screen? Because I'm no longer seeing him maneuvering around the screen.
I can see it.
Okay, it might just be me.
Yeah, I can see it too.
All right, thank you.
If you want, pop out and come right back in and see if that helps.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. But everybody else is okay? Still see me okay?
Yes, no problem.
All right. I ran a hard line for internet at my house, but even then sometimes it screws up. So, all right. So back to this item versus file. Now, there is a difference between these two. Item is the one that I would like you to use pretty much anytime you want to add just content to your course, PDF, a PowerPoint, a SlideShare, whatever it is, a Word document, whatever you want to add to it. I would prefer that you use item. The reason I say that is it's going to give you a ton more options to use. So I'm going to click on item and I'm going to show you. You get to name it, you get a description, you get a place to add files to, but you also get this giant text editor. And within this text editor, you have this plus button. There's another plus button. And you have all these choices, all this different type of stuff that you can add to your course. So it gives you an incredible amount of diversity and option. Whereas the file, you get this. You get to add a file, and that's it. You don't get that big giant text editor to where you get to do a bunch of different things. So I basically tell people there's not much use for adding a file versus adding an item. An item is going to give you everything that you can do with this and then a ton more. So always choose item. And there is going to be an icon associated with each of these. So as you're submitting your screenshots, I will be looking at those particular icons, those little pictures that are next to them, to ensure that you're choosing the right thing. So basically strike file from your list. Okay.
Can you show that plus again? This is Lisa, how you got all those options.
Well, we're going to jump on that one right now because we're going to create an item. And you're actually going to have to use it to do what we're going to do. So let's do a course syllabus. So I clicked on item, naming it a course syllabus. And here you have your giant text editor. You could put your attachment right here if you wanted. It would probably be pretty straightforward just for a syllabus. But if you wanted to give it more of a introduction or whatever, you type your stuff in here, but here is that plus button right in the text editor. So by going here, I can insert local files. I can pull stuff from my cloud service if I connect everything to my Google Drive, which it is. I can pull off my Google Drive. I'd have to sign in and stuff, but or if I'm using OneDrive, that's Microsoft Office. Some people use Dropbox. I don't know what that one is, but there are cloud services. One thing to keep in mind about using this function within Blackboard is if you bring in a Google Doc, you've killed it. And what I mean by that, it's going to bring in that Google Doc as a stagnant document. It will cease to be an interactive document. Now, if you know anything about Google Docs, they are a live document where if you give permission, if I created a document and I gave permission to this entire class, like I did with the Google slide, everybody can play with it and edit it, and I can actually watch you type in it. But as soon as you bring something like in that, a Google Doc in, it comes to die, and it no longer becomes collaborative or interactive. It will not make changes to your live document in Drive. So, okay. So just a reminder of that. And then there's all kinds of, these are publisher content tools, different tools that you can use. And there's the UJA that I was using earlier, and you can pull YouTube videos directly off. So, but let's just grab a file. Here, we'll put one of my many versions of my dissertation in there. And then if I did want to display and release, I would put that in there, but the rest of the stuff can remain default. It's going to default in the way that your students will be able to see it. The tracking the number of the views has to do with analytics behind the scenes in Blackboard. You'll get some of that stuff in intermediate and some of it in advanced on being able to kind of play big brother to things that happen within Blackboard. You can see, run different reports and see what your students are doing and how much time they're spending on certain things. But that'll come in intermediate and advanced Blackboard. So I'm going to submit this. Then here it is. So notice this icon looks like a newspaper with a picture in it. And there we go. So the student can come in. Now here is something to remember with this stuff though. I put it as a Word document, and when I click on it, when you're in Chrome, it makes you download it and then open it up. Okay? That's kind of a pain in the butt. Now, what you can do as a workaround to that is, if I do want to change this, how would I do that? This down arrow next to it, that doesn't help. That's something different. You have to edit the whole thing. So I'm going to come here, edit it. I'm going to mark this actually, I'm just going to click on it and hit the backspace and delete it. No, that didn't work. So I'll delete the whole thing. I'm actually going to drop in a PDF. And I thought I did. Here's a actual one. So here I have a PDF file. I'm going to put that in instead. Now look what happens when I click on it. It just opens right away. So if you can save your syllabi as PDF files, it will open straight away for your students. So if you're unfamiliar how to do that, if you have a Word document and you simply do the save as, which I can do from here, save as, it's just a simple, I don't know where did it, come on, stop it, browse, there we go. Save as type right below where you name it. Click the down arrow and you can save it as a PDF. So if you put PDFs in there as much as possible, it's kind of nice for the navigation for the students. So when they click on it, it simply pops open and they get to see it versus the little download thing with documents. All right. So that is adding simple content. Yes. Somebody just raised their hand.
It's me, Jennifer. Something
Good.
I've always done is I've also did the item option for syllabus, and I've posted in the important parts of the syllabus for the students that rely on a cell phone, do you think that that's useful to just paste it in as an item as well as upload it as the file, or do you think it's just good to just have it as a PDF file?
No, absolutely. Yes and no. And what I mean by that is if it's a PDF file, it's a little more printer friendly. When I take classes, I like printing off certain things so I can have them. So in that sense, it would make sense. But if it's just a bunch of rules and regulations, which they're highly likely not going to print off, then just pasting it, as you said, works. How you would do that, what she is talking about, is I would take this document. Let me just get something open. Yeah, man. I grabbed something uneditable. Here, let's open this up real quick. So if I did, a chunk of this, and actually I think we're going to run into a little bit of an issue. Let's see. So I can either remove formatting, keep formatting. I'm going to keep it. So I can just paste the stuff in there. It gets a little touchy with pictures because it does not like the cut and paste of a picture. So in that case, save the picture as a file, and then you can just do the plus button and add it in there. But I would probably do both. Have it pasted, give them the option with the file below it, and they can click on both, and that way they're both up there. So makes it
And
easy.
yeah, I like that option for them because so many of them have just a cell phone. So I feel
Mhm.
like if they're clicking on their cell phone, they don't have to worry about opening an attachment to see something that's really important. When they click on syllabus or they click on assignment, it's going to be right there.
Sure, absolutely. So I've seen it done both ways and both very effective. So awesome, thank you. All right, so let's go back to the different types of content. So that was just a simple item. Um, Audio file, typically MP3, a WAV format. There's different audio files. It's pretty straightforward, and audio files tend to be smaller. However, I was just contacted by somebody that was, I think, in the music area at the college, and his audio files were gargantuan. So I guess there's exceptions to every rule. But typically, when we're dealing with a simple audio file, I'll give you an example. ESL teachers here at MATC, um, they have found, especially when they had to go online, it got really difficult for them. They had found, I had one teacher that was recording herself saying, simple little sentences, phrases that she wanted her students to practice with in little audio files, which there's a simple recorder on every computer to be able to record yourself, or you can use Yuja or Collaborate. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. The little recorder on the computer is the easiest one. It just creates a simple MP3 format. But she was dropping in little audio files within her lesson plans for the students to be able to hear her pronunciations or even explanations of certain phrases within the lessons. So simple name, browse your local file, find that MP3 or WAV or whatever format it is. And then you have some other options to auto start, loop. Give me just 1 second here. Sorry, my daughter decided she was going to do some jumping jacks or something right above my head here. So audio options, auto start, yes, loop. Um, don't worry about the alignment that has to do with something actually we are going to touch next week on Career Essentials. If you do put an audio file in there, you have to include a transcript. That is ADA compliance. You have to do that. All right. It can just be a simple Word document or whatever, the transcription of the audio file. The rest of the standard things you can leave. So that is a simple audio file. The next is an image. It's basically the same thing as inserting a local file. You're just going to find an image, plug it in there, name it, add the file. You can give it a description. This is kind of important for people with ADA compliance, but let me show you something here real quick. Flower, I'm going to browse. I have an example on my desktop. Where is the flower? Okay, so here I've put the simple picture of flower, but here you have something called alternate text. This is for ADA compliance. So I can type in, this is a picture of flower. So somebody who's visually impaired and they're using something called a screen reader and they move down over that file, the screen reader will not be able to do anything about the image, but if you have this alternate text that's associated with it, it will read that off to the person with the screen reader. Okay, otherwise you can give a really long version if you really wanted to describe it in depth, but if it's something simple, you just want some alternate text, that is the bare minimum that you have to do with a picture within Blackboard. Okay. This does give you a little bit more flexibility than just simply putting up a picture, a file, because you are able to alter the dimensions. You can put borders around it. If it had a URL associated with it, opening in a new window, and then the standard options. I'm going to push OK, submit. And notice when I bring my cursor and hover over it, I'll see that little pop-up that said this is a picture of a flower, and that's what the screen reader will utilize. Okay, let me just make sure this isn't somebody from our class. Nope, we're good. All right, so that was an image. Next one is video. Don't ever. No, not allowed. Forget it. Why? MP4 or other video files are massive. Okay, a simple, short little video. Well, here, let's take a look. So this is our live class, online meetings. I'm going to go ahead and download the recording that we did from this morning. And let's see how massive this file is. It's not even downloading, it's so big. It's still in the process, so there it is. So what do we got? 641 megabytes. Massive. To be able to save your course in something called archiving or exporting, your max is 250 megabytes. That one video blew everything out of the water. You will not be able to save or archive your course at all. Okay, I don't even want that on my computer because it sucks up so much room, but I'll get rid of that later. So when you're dealing with this, no videos. Well, Donnie, I need to put some videos in my class. There's tons of other ways. The easiest way is something called a mashup. A mashup, all a mashup is a combination between two or more software programs. In our case, it's Blackboard and something else. Blackboard and YouTube is a very, very common one. It's a really, really nice feature. In fact, let's do. So let's do a YouTube mashup. And we're going to search out something very, very benign, because the internet is an ugly place, especially when you're doing stuff in front of a live class. So here I've searched out puppies, and you're in Blackboard and yet it's searching in YouTube. So it's kind of nice. You get to see anything about it. If you really wanted to go look at it first, you could link over to it, but I'm simply going to select this one. That's going to dump me into the options page, and you're going to get this little thumbnail. Leave it as a thumbnail. I kind of think of that as bait. It's attractive for the students to click on. This function right, and let me back up here. Any descriptors you're going to want to put in here, like when I was designing that math class for my department, I did find a few Khan Academy videos that were well done and supportive. The different units that we're doing, like one on fractions, adding, subtracting fractions, and there was a Khan Academy video out there that was really well done, but I didn't really like the name of it, so I could rename it. I could give it a description. Okay, this video is about subtracting, adding fractions, whatever. Or I ran into a couple of videos that I had to add during the pandemic in some of my face-to-face classes, just trying to give them anything when we immediately shut down. And so I was just going after any videos that I could find, and some of the terminology was odd, so I was giving descriptions and explanations of differences between my terminology and maybe somebody on the East Coast or West Coast, different terms they were using. So, but leave it as a thumbnail. This is called the rabbit hole function. Leave it as no. So by doing this, you are taking the video and playing it right in the same screen, minus that lovely and enticing side scroll bar with the billion other videos that your students will inevitably start clicking on, and you will lose them for the next 2-3 hours. I guarantee you every one of us in this class is sat down, watched a video, and 2 hours later you wonder what the hell you've been doing for the past 2 hours because you kept clicking on different videos. That will take that away. So that's called the rabbit hole feature. You want to keep this a yes, because if the link is somehow broken, at least they will see this URL and then it could click on it as an end around. Unfortunately, that will bring up the side scroll, but that's just a backup. If you wanted any attachments or anything to go along with it, you could. Maybe there was a rubric or a question and answer type thing, whatever you wanted to put along with it. The normal options are here, same thing, and then submit. So what's nice is, as a student, and I'll be showing this here real soon. So this was under weekly lessons. I think I'm in week 1. No, am I still under the syllabus? Yeah. So here, when they click on watch the video, it plays right here in the screen. But as soon as they click play, they can still
Hello?
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 I don't see him anymore.
Me either.
Maybe he needs to redial back in.
Can you hear me now?
There we
Now,
go.
yep, we're back to normal.
Okay, that was weird. All right, so I made the internet mad apparently. So Okay, so that was a YouTube mashup instead of a, let me get back to that content area. So don't use a video. You can use a YouTube mashup, or you can use a web link to a video if you know where one is, or there's something called embedding. So let me just quickly show you embedding. I'm not going to go through it, but I'll show you where the explanation is. So let me go to the faculty support website, and it's going to be content, and it's going to be YouTube videos. So this is one you may want to keep in mind where it is, because it's going to give you 3 options of adding videos to your course without adding a ton of file size. A link, which is basically all these things are, is going to add very, very little file size to your entire course. So you're basically relying on somebody else to hold all the information, and you're just referencing it. So there's the mashup tools, option 1, and this is called embedding. I've heard different arguments for and against this particular one, and the against arguments came from people that were in the computer area. I guess bringing embedded code into this brings up the potential for, I don't know, I'm not a computer guy, but it could bring up potential issues. I've never had an issue with them, and it's kind of a nice backup if there's something going wrong with the mashups, because the nice thing about this embedding is it will also give you a nice thumbnail. It's a really big thumbnail, but it will give you that picture of basically the bait click, the clickbait, really enticing the student to click on something. And then the third one is just a web link that we're getting ready to do. All right, so kind of remember that that's there in case you ever had to go that route. So a web link could be to a video, but let's use this for real right now. So I'm going to go to my live class. Here's our recording from this morning. And seeing as I'm here, I'll go ahead and show you how to do this. So I am going to teach you a little bit about Blackboard Collaborate in this class. It's going to be next week, but seeing as we're right here, I'm going to talk about this very particular feature. So when you log into a course and you did something in a Collaborate session, like we're doing right now, you would land here. These 3 bars that are in the corner right here will give you the options to go to the recordings. Now, if you do any recordings in your class, you really need to give those students the ability to see them, which I'm about to do with you all. So what I want from this is just the link. I don't want to download this thing like I showed you earlier. So I'm going to come over here to the recording options. I'm going to copy the link. And then I told you earlier that I was going to put them in the help and support area. Notice what this is. This is just simply a content folder, right? I called it recorded live sessions. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to build some content. I'm going to call this a web link. And I'm going to say live session 5/28/22 part 1. I'm going to drop that URL in there that I copied. And the rest of it, I'm going to leave the way it is. I don't really need to give any explanations because I gave it in the title. And I don't need to attach any files. I do want it to open in a new window. Thankfully, they give the option here, and it is defaulted to yes. I'm not worried about any of the standard options, and then I'm going to submit. So now you all in the live class can come to help and support, can come to the recorded live sessions and then click on that, and then you'll be able to watch the recordings from earlier and from today. All right. So if you're going to use recordings in your classes, whether it be from Blackboard Collaborate, whether it be from UJA or from some other platform that you're using, you need to add the recording somehow to your course without bogging it down with downloaded files. They need to be web links to certain things. Okay. All right. So let me go back over to our test course. So that was a web link. We've talked about content folder. The module page, that was just the home page, and you can do the same thing within a content area, which I'm not a big fan of. All of these, the learning modules, that's what's being used in our live course for the learning instruction areas. It's not shown in this class, but that one's pretty easy and self-intuitive to learn if you really wanted to go that route. A course link, same premise as the button. If you wanted to add a course link, you could do so. And then the rest of this stuff, from here all the way down, these are all publisher content or MATC based stuff. So here's UJA or any other stuff. Red Shelf, I think people are starting to, open educational resources are starting to push that kind of stuff. Then over here under mashups, Flickr photo, that's just a open website with a bunch of photos for fair use, copyright free. SlideShare is much like Google Slides or PowerPoint, YouTube video we showed, and then NetTutor, that is a service provided by MATC or paid for by MATC, a live tutoring service for students at MATC. Yes, go ahead.
Can you also use a web link, like say, for in your announcement?
Absolutely. That's pretty handy to use in the announcements. We're going to talk about the announcements next week, but you can do everything. So if I create an item, just for example, in the announcements, you're going to get the same giant text editor. So you can simply put it in a link. So you're not going to do it from here unless you were actually going after, like yesterday, I dropped in a UJA video. I could have thrown a YouTube video, but to do a live link, so MATC, there's the faculty support website page. I'm going to go grab that link. As soon as I highlight this, I do this little chain, Control V, and I hit save. Now it's a live link inside of, in this case, we're in a content area, but I could also do it inside of an announcement as well. So,
Thank you.
now when they click on it, it brings them right to that support website. So, but it didn't open in a new window. So how should I mess with that? Let's go investigate. What should I do? Edit. And we're not going to have that choice here. So this one, you're going to have to put up with it. So I don't think, no, there is a downside to some of this stuff if you put like a live link in here. So I'm just playing with this live and learning as you all are seeing as well. I don't like that because as soon as I clicked on this, Watch what happens. Here's my Blackboard course. It went away. And the students may or may not be savvy enough to hit the back button and get back in their course. They might
So
get frustrated, ticked off.
are you saying that that would not be a good idea?
I'm not a fan of it in that particular instance. I would prefer if you need to do, well, in an announcement, it's going to be a little different. Let's just see how it behaves in an announcement. I'm just going to go through this real quickly. I'm just going to. So there's no choice for a web link here. So we would have to do a link. Ah, here it is. Missed it. New window. So when you're setting it up and inserting the link,
Mhm.
I went too fast and didn't see it. Make sure you're doing a new window. And it would have been the same for what I just did. I just went too fast and didn't notice it. Make sure you're watching out for that new window, because then it'll make it easy. All right. It's kind of important because it does get frustrating if you don't realize your course stayed in the same window and it went to an external thing. I've done it a million times myself. Got done with the website, like right here, closed it, and didn't realize it was the whole course too, and get irritated and have to log back in. So be cognizant of that. So okay, so if you've done something already in here, so if I didn't like what I did here,
Mhm.
do I have to delete it or can I fix
You
it?
can fix it
How?
with the drop down arrow and then edit.
Okay, so then I can do anything that I want in here and change things up. Awesome. What about this one? Maybe I want kittens instead. Can I fix this? Let's look. You actually cannot.
You would have to get a new video for that because you have puppies and now you want kittens, so you would have to get something with kittens.
I don't have the option of going back in and browsing YouTube. So this is one of the few things that I have found when you are posed with the question of whether you can fix it or do you got to start from scratch. This is one of the few things where you have to start from scratch.
That's right.
If you're changing the settings, no. If you just want to change some of the settings, that's easily fixed or adjusted. But changing the video, you have to start from scratch. Okay, and I think it might be the same for the flower as well. Yep, it's grayed out to not allow you to do it. So basically, any of the mashups, you're going to have to start from scratch if you don't like the picture, the video, the slide, whatever you built. Yes. Somebody just raise their hand. We can't hear you if you're talking. Jennifer, did you just put your hand up?
No, probably from that last time.
Joanne, did you just put your hand up?
I just got finished talking. I asked the questions about the video.
Okay. All right. Lynn, did you just put your hand up? Lynn, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yep.
Sorry about that. So there's not a
Okay.
delete option in the drop down for,
For the mashups, no.
okay, thank you.
Wait a minute. The delete option, yes. You can't change the video or in a Flickr, you can't change the picture. You got to delete the whole thing. So if I wanted kittens instead of puppies, I'd have to start from scratch. So I would literally delete it and then put a new one up. So
Okay, thank you.
everything else basically in Blackboard, there might be some exceptions that I'm not recalling right away. 9 times out of 10, you can edit something and fix it and change it, but there are a couple exceptions, and the ones that I know about are in the mashups. But okay. All right, let me just take a look. Any questions so far on what we've done, what we took a look at? Everybody's all good and an expert? All right, so you've seen me doing it so many times, but now let me do it right in front of you. Student preview mode. So it's this guy right here. I call it the eye in the sky. And when I click on it, you'll see the yellow banner come up and it says that student preview mode is on. We are 100% a student now, and we can only see what the student sees. This is, well, let me ask y'all that question. Why would I want to use this? What are some reasons for using this?
You might not want us to work ahead. And maybe you want to make maybe you would want to make some adjustment to some of your instructions that you have given us, or you wanted to add more. So it would create a problem if we worked ahead.
Okay, so maybe a best practice at the beginning of the semester to go check all your stuff. Okay, what
To
else
make
could we use it for?
to make sure your students can see the content.
Yep, making sure everything is proper. What else?
Make sure it's as user friendly as possible, as easily navigated and organized as possible for the students.
Absolutely. So all those, the common theme there was checking and making sure things are working right, correct? But there is also an interactive feature to this. When you exit the preview, you can keep the preview user data and all its data and hit continue. And what that just did is in the Grade Center, it created a preview user. So I just created a fake student in my class. So now my student preview user can not only be used to check and make sure things are okay, but I can also use it to learn. So if I had never used the journal function, which is a courses tool, I could create that tool, go in as a preview user, play with that, put in a journal entry, save it, come out of it, save all my data, go be the teacher again, grade that student, go back out as a student, get to see what the student, what the teacher wrote. So you can go back and forth and learn something pretty well. The other thing we can do is when you have a student that says that they can't see something or their grade seems wonky, you can go in and do something. So let's say a student took a test and they got 120 out of 100, and you know you didn't build that test that way. you could go in as a student in student preview mode, take that test, purposely get 100 or whatever you're trying to do, save it, come back out, go in the grade center as a teacher and look wherever that test is and see if you got a similar result or if it's just something that's going on with that one particular user. So using student preview mode, I want to say one thing here. When you exit the preview mode, there is no reason you need this last choice. There will always be a reason for the first or the second. I'm either done playing around and I don't need my preview user anymore, which will be the first choice, or I do want to keep that preview user and all its data, and I want to go back and forth and try different things. But let's say for some reason you don't have that choice anymore. So I'm going to break it right now. So I just broke it. And what do I mean by that? So I'm going to go into student preview mode and I'm going to come out, but I want to save it. All right. Let's see if that menu pops up. Ah, crap. I broke it. So the menu disappeared. And that might be what happened to somebody right now. So how do we fix it? Go back into student preview mode, go to settings, and take that check mark off. Then hit save. So that way now when I exit, I have the first or second choice. So in your assignments for the next couple weeks and for your own abilities going forward, there are going to be times where you need to keep the preview user. And for this class, I want you to keep using that middle choice because I'm going to ask you to go in, do something, and grade it as a teacher, come back out and save it. So you're going to need to save it and take screen captures of certain things. So, right, but I'm done playing around, so I'm just going to go ahead and let that delete. But that's how to enter student preview mode, exit student preview mode, save the data, and be able to interact. You're going to play around with the interactions anyway in this particular class, but it's an awesome, awesome tool. I complain often about Blackboard, but I will give them massive accolades. They hit that one out of the park. It's an awesome tool. Um, so let me revisit the course availability settings because that is going to be one of the assignments that's in this particular area. So where did I go? Let's choose somebody. Let's see if Kim, do you remember where I could mess with the dates of availability for a particular course?
You go up to the plus symbol, correct? I think that's
The what symbol?
that plus symbol.
I don't see anything that's going to get us any help there.
Let me see here. Under course tools.
We're getting close.
Customization.
Whatever gave you that thought.
I don't know.
Then what?
Properties.
Absolutely. So you're on your own here. Where should we go?
Go all the way down.
More.
There we have our set course duration, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to come into a class and it's going to have, dates going on with it, that it opens and closes after certain dates. And that's going to mess with you being able to open it early for students. So what is the selection that we need to take to avoid this?
Continue.
Continuous.
That used to work, but then it stopped working all of a sudden without Blackboard telling us.
Used for term duration.
Yes, ma'am. This is what we need. So use term duration. That's what you need to remember. That is the current thing that's going on with Blackboard until they decide to change it on us and not tell us again. That happens often. Um, but this is going to allow you to open the class early and being able to get the class open for the students. All right. Questions so far on things that are going on? We've covered.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you're using term duration,
Mm-hmm.
do you still have to like put in like specific, you wouldn't have to put in specific dates for like if a paper is due on a specific date or anything like that. When you do that, does that mean that that particular item, say if it was well, if it was like an essay, and would that stay open for the entire, like say if your course is 8 weeks or 16 weeks, would that stay open for that entire time? Or how
Okay.
would that work?
All right. That's a topic that's coming next week, but I'll quickly show it. This is a class I taught last semester, and I think I have a dynamic assignment in here. No, let me find one. More components. All right, so I had a dynamic assignment here. The students had to submit a sequence of operation for a specific component that I taught them about. So I have the ability, if I would have wanted, and this is a standard option that's on all the stuff, if I wanted to display it from one point to another, I could, but because I didn't put anything in here, this assignment was open the entire semester for them. So
Uh,
it wasn't critical enough for me to worry about opening and closing at a certain point.
mhm,
However, I just worked with that gentleman that teaches Phi-Ed, and he had a final exam that obviously he wanted to open and close at specific points in the
mhm,
semester, which made 100% sense. So, um, but otherwise, for the stuff that I do, I typically don't open and close things. But in my online classes, I was opening and closing folders. So if this
mhm,
assignment, like it is in this module 2 folder,
mhm,
I could have opened and closed the entire folder. This option is going to keep coming up for almost everything in Blackboard, dates of availability. But this is very different than dates of availability for the entire course. This is something specific in the course. Okay.
And this would be good to use because with us, we're getting students like not just at the beginning of the term, but in the middle and 2 or 3 weeks after that. So it's kind of like sometimes we're constantly getting students. And this would prevent you from changing that so much, correctly? Correct?
Yeah, it really is your preference on how you want to run that course and what you want open at any given time. The one thing to take home with you is if you have any memory issues like I do, it's easier to open and close folders to remember them than
Mhm,
opening and closing every item in your course. You're inevitably going to miss something. Um,
mhm,
so just a little easier way of doing things. So in that electrical code class that I taught online, I would typically keep about 3 folders open at any given one time. One a week behind, one during the week I was teaching it, and one a week ahead, just so I had a little leeway for those that were falling a little behind and those that were advanced and wanted to keep pushing a little bit. I didn't want to get them too far ahead, but I also didn't want to have them be too disinterested. So if they were
mhm.
really good at it, so. All right. But it's
Thank you.
100% a personal preference. Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions thus far? Otherwise, I'll have some for you. All right, let's see who I have here. Who haven't I not? Lisa, you've been flying under my radar. Lisa,
Okay.
let's figure something out here. If I wanted to add a video like I did for this class, without adding a ton of file size, what would be one of the more enticing ways of doing it?
Using the YouTube mashup.
And if I'm in a content area, which I so happen to be in, what would be a good way to do that?
So you could go to build content and then the YouTube video under mashup.
Okay. Should we get kittens this time?
Sure.
All right. So what am I worried about in this particular area? What do I have to do?
So you want to scroll down. You want to make sure that you want to leave the show the YouTube URL as no, so that they don't
Well, I'm
kind of.
not quite there yet.
All right. So
What do I have to do here?
um,
Right now, you're only seeing the different videos, right?
to pick the one that you want.
Yep. I'm going to go with the first one just to be safe.
Yep. And then you
Now, what
name it.
area am I in?
A new page.
Yep. So now you can rename that if you want, or you could type like a description or directions in that box.
Okay. So I can put a description in. What else? So this whole area is the options area, right?
Right. And then when you go down to that, then you want to
I
keep.
don't want these thumbnails, do I? I just want some text, right?
Um, sure. You want the thumbnail.
What's a thumbnail?
It's gonna keep the box like smaller.
Thumbnail's this little picture.
Yeah.
So that's going to be something the kids are going to want to click on because, ooh, it's a picture. It's a video. I
Right.
know about those things. Probably don't have to do nothing. I just got to watch the video like the teacher wants, right? So what about this guy right here?
So you want to keep that, the show the YouTube URL as no, and keep
Why
that
is that?
so that it doesn't have the sidebar where they can click on all the related videos,
All right, awesome.
and then keep the show to YouTube information as yes.
Okay. What was the reasoning behind that?
In case there would be like an issue and the link or something didn't work, they could find that information, type it in on their
Awesome.
own.
Thank you. And then the rest of us is basically what?
Like how they're going to view it. So if you wanted to view it, so you had permit, yes. If you want to track the number of views, if you want to restrict when they can see it, you could put the date in and the time. But otherwise, hit submit.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So nice and easy. There it is. Okay, one more before I start going over all the assignments. Lynn, what should we give Lynn? Lynn, can you recite the algebraic equation, please? Just
Oh
kidding.
yeah, absolutely.
That's messy. I couldn't. No way. I can write my butt off, but I suck at math. So
Me too.
Um, let's see. Let's say that I want what's important about putting a picture in Blackboard? What's something that I have to be aware of not to get in trouble with the federal government?
There's licensing requirements.
Okay, very good. Copyright infringement, absolutely. What else?
You need to make sure it's appropriate for sure.
Yeah,
For a okay, for a picture. You went into your file and pulled up that link. Oh, you need to, for those that have ADA or accommodations that may not be able to see the picture, you need to include verbiage that actually when they scroll down and look, it says this is a picture of this.
absolutely. So when I went into that area,
Right.
that was
You
called
have an
alternate
alternate
text.
text.
Absolutely. And on your mention of appropriateness, um, I came really, really close to learning a really hard, bad lesson when we first went down for COVID. So I was to the point where I was teaching my gas furnace class, and that's impossible to teach online, but we were cast to the wind, and I didn't have any choice but to try to give them something. I found a video of an instructor. I don't know where he was, but he was teaching the sequence of an operation for a gas furnace very similar to how I teach it. And I absolutely loved it. It's like, awesome. I found this video. I want to put it on for the kids. And I just happened to let it play all the way. And I about was absolutely besides myself at the end of the video when all the students in his classroom left except for one student, and the video kept rolling, and the student and this teacher decided to start telling racial jokes to each other. And I was like, oh my God, I almost put that up online in my class. So make sure if you're putting videos that are up on the internet, you watch them completely to make sure that they are appropriate. Because, man, that would have sucked big time. So, all right. Okay, so we got about a half hour left, and maybe we can get out a little bit early today. What I want to go in, and before I go into the class requirements, are there any other questions about the things we talked about today? Because what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go into our live class. I'm going to pull up each assignment, and I'm going to talk about each one briefly, and some of them I will actually go and point out where the things are and how to get them done, even though we've seen them all, okay? All right, so live class here. We go to the weekly lessons. Don't forget to get the slideshow done and the syllabus receipt. Make sure you study for that one. Weekly lessons. I got a lot of dad jokes, by the way. The weekly lessons. Week one, the module one. Yeah, we're in week one, oriented Blackboard. So module one, you are only going to have a knowledge quiz check. All these quizzes are, say, less than 12 questions, sometimes even way lower than that. And I'm not stupid. You can have one browser open here and another browser open there. So don't just go in and click them. If you got to go look up the stuff, I would rather you walk away going and finding and understanding it than just getting something wrong. Each quiz has two chances. So if you did screw something up the first time, you have the ability to take it one more time. So every quiz in the whole course has two chances.
Someone has a
So
mic
let's,
open. Sorry to
what's
interrupt.
it?
Somebody has a mic open.
Yes, can everybody mute, please? All good. All right, so that was week one, module two. So you will have the knowledge check quiz again for this one, but now we have a dynamic assignment. So we're gonna need screenshots. How I want you to do them, I would prefer you use one of three things. You can either use a Microsoft Word document, and if you do that route, no more than 2 screenshots per page. Otherwise, it's just way too small for me to see and be able to grade. You can do it as a PDF. Again, no more than 2 screenshots per page. Or you could use a Microsoft PowerPoint slide presentation and then 1 screenshot per slide. All screenshots need to be labeled so I understand exactly what you're trying to show me. The reason I want that is not to be ticky-tacky, but for instance, this one right here, lesson 2, 1 course open, 1 course closed, 2 favorites, 1 screenshot, and me labeling it, I can show 1, 2, 3 of these in 1 screenshot. So I can come over to my courses page, and here I have a course that is open. So here I have a course that is open. Here I have a course that is private, closed, and I have 2 favorites. So me giving you this, you giving me this 1 screenshot showed me all 3 of these. But as long as you label it as such, 1 course open, 1 course closed, and 2 favorites, you don't have to get crazy with rewriting everything. But I know what you're talking about. I'm not going to just assume. Picture of the faculty resource page. How did we get to that? Institution page. Scroll down and show me a picture, a screenshot that you got to here. I don't want to just see this because I don't know whether or not you know which one to click on. Okay. And then show a picture of a PMF or PMO request form. I'm going to be very flexible here. If you don't have one, then I want you to request one. You can show me a picture of this page where you're actually requesting it. If you already have one from previous classes, from doing whatever, just simply show it to me in your courses page. So if you got a PMF somewhere, show me a picture of the PMF. And that's fine for that one. Okay, so that was lesson 2. Lesson 3, oops, module 3, another knowledge check quiz. We have 2 dynamic assignments. There's a lot in this particular area, but again, it's one of those things where you're going to give me a screenshot that's going to satisfy 2, 3, 4 of these things all in one shot. So lesson 3A, show me a picture of a button that is unavailable and available. I've had lots of mix-ups in the past. Buttons are not courses. Buttons are these guys over here. So in your course, show me that one that is available and one that's unavailable. So let's look at this. And there's a divider. What did I ask for? I asked for course materials. So let's look at what I asked for here. A button available, unavailable, available. Syllabus button moved to the top. Subheader labeled course materials. A divider. And then we'll talk about this last one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can do in all 5 in one screenshot because here's my syllabus. I'll move it to the top. Here is one that is, well, that one was unavailable. This is available. Here is my subheader. Here is my divider. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all in one. As long as you label that screenshot that it's all there and I'll be able to look and see this stuff. That was a quickie. And then show a picture of fully created faculty contact. So I need to see faculty information. I need to make sure that you have it available. I will be looking for, let me make it unavailable so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to be looking for this to make sure you don't have that hidden, because when I review people's courses, this is a common thing that I see. They don't realize when you first create that Blackboard defaults that it's hidden and the kids can't see it. So make sure that it is available. Okay. Weekly lessons, that was week 1, that was module 3. So that lesson 3A you could literally do in 2 screenshots. Very simple. Lesson 3B, show a picture of a YouTube mashup. We did that. Do something simple like dogs, kittens, puppies, whatever. But again, I'm going to be paying attention to these symbols that are next to it. So you go to build content, YouTube mashup. Okay. Show a picture of an added syllabus under the syllabus button using an item. I will be able to tell the difference between an item and a file. So build content, item. So in this case, I see this symbol. It has a picture and lines. If I see the paper with just lines and no picture, that means you did the wrong thing. So I can tell the difference. Show a picture of a web link using the MATC main website. So under there, build content, web link, then just plug in the information for the MATC main website. Don't put it in your menu. I want it as a content area. And then show the location of changing the course entry point. Who in here can tell me where that's at? Where do I have to go for that? Oh, get quiet in here. So where do we go? To your control panel, customization, teaching style, scroll down and select course entry point. So I need a screenshot showing me you can get to this point. Okay, again, customization, teaching style, scroll down till you see select course entry point. And that was it for that one. Okay. Please make sure you're putting all the screenshots in one document. I don't want to see, in this case, 6 different documents attached to this dynamic assignment. And if you are unfamiliar with submitting an assignment through Blackboard, I did leave an old announcement in right here, submitting an assignment. A simple PowerPoint to walk you through how to submit an assignment. I absolutely need you to upload it as a document. That way I can annotate it in Blackboard and give the feedback that I need to. Okay. And then finally, one more, module 4, another check quiz, and then one more dynamic assignment. Show a picture actively in student preview mode. Okay, so how do we do that? Cancel that. I need to see that you hit the eye in the sky and I see this yellow banner. Show a picture exiting the student preview mode and where you would save the preview user. I need to know that you didn't eliminate this option of being able to click that option. And then show a picture of a preview user in the Grade Center. When I keep that option, like I'm doing right now, and I hit continue, I can come down here to my Grade Center, and you can either click this and hit full Grade Center, or you can use the shortcut, which is the little arrow. and then I will be able to see the preview user. It'll say your last name and then preview, and I'll know that you saved that student preview user properly. And then show the picture of location for changing the dates of availability for the entire course. So where do we go for that? Customization, properties, and then set course duration. I want to know that you know how to get to this point. Okay. Any questions about the assignments? So let's quickly look at the syllabus. And I want to talk about one more thing. All right, so everything is that we talked about today, including the pre-class stuff, is due by the 4th, which is next Saturday, our second meeting. Realize that I'm going to stop the course and everything's due on the 10th. There is a reason I'm doing that, is I want to reserve Saturday for any last grading that I have to do, and I'm going to submit grades here because the 12th, I'm leaving on a road trip with my daughter to South Carolina to visit my folks. So I have to have a deadline here. I'm going to give myself 1 day to grade if I have to do any grading. I will keep up with the grading all throughout and be pretty responsive to everything. I'll typically go in twice a day, something along that lines, while the course is in operation. But to stop the course here doesn't make any sense because we're going to talk about things and then you'll have these assignments left to do. So I will give everybody until the 10th to do the second week stuff after we talk this next Saturday on the 4th. But everything that we talked about today is due by next Saturday. Okay? Are there any questions about anything that we've covered today?
So we're doing all of this work in that like pretend course that is loaded, correct?
Yeah, I'm giving you 100% option where you want to do this stuff. Everybody was given a test course. I'll talk to the two that are having problems getting registered after we're done here. I really don't care where you do the work. You can do it in a personal master, you can do it in your test course, or if you're building things for real, or if you have some done already in some of your live courses, I'm completely okay with that. The goal is just for me to understand that you know how to do this stuff, not to make you do a bunch of extra work. Okay? Any other questions? All good? All right, let me stop sharing. I'm going to stop the recording.